You are thinking right now, not with images, not with emotions, but with words. The sentence forming in your mind as you read this is made of language. Take that away, and something strange will happen. Not silence, but something older than silence. Before I learned my very first words, I just wanted to wish everyone watching this video a fantastic day. For most of human history, there were no words, no names for things, no way to say tomorrow or I remember or what if. And yet your ancestors were not empty. They were not animals stumbling through a dark world without understanding. They were doing something complex, something social, something creative, long before the first word was ever spoken. What that something was is one of the most fascinating and least understood questions in all of science. And the answers, when you look closely, reveal something surprising about the mind you are using right now. First, understand what we mean by language. Linguists draw a distinction between communication and language. Communication is ancient. Almost every animal communicates through sound, gesture, scent, color, movement. Bees communicate the direction and distance of flowers through a precise waggle dance. Chimpanzees use over 60 distinct gestures with consistent meanings across different groups. Dolphins have signature whistles that function like names. None of this is language. Language is something specific, a system of arbitrary symbols, sounds, or gestures with no inherent connection to what they represent, that can be combined according to rules to produce an infinite number of new meanings. The word tree does not look or sound like a tree. That arbitrary connection and the ability to combine symbols recursively is what makes human language unique. So when did language appear? The honest answer is that nobody knows. Language leaves almost no direct fossil record. Soft tissue, tongues, lips, vocal cords, does not survive. What we have are clues: the shape of skulls, the position of the hyoid bone, which supports the tongue and whose modern human form appears in the fossil record around 300,000 years ago, the size and organization of brain regions associated with language, and most importantly, the archaeological record of behavior. What your ancestors were doing before, during, and after the emergence of language. Anthropologist Daniel Everett of Bentley University has argued that something like proto-language, a simple system of symbols without the full recursive grammar of modern language, may have emerged as early as 1.9 million years ago with Homo erectus. But full modern language, the kind you are using right now, most researchers place somewhere between 100,000 and 50,000 years ago, based on the explosion of symbolic behavior, art, ritual, long-distance trade that appears in the archaeological record around that time, which means that for the vast majority of the human lineage, your ancestors were doing something else, something that worked well enough to survive ice ages, migrate across continents, and build social groups complex enough to eventually produce language itself. What were they doing? Start with gesture. Before words, your ancestors communicated primarily through the body, not random movement, structured, intentional gesture with shared meanings. Michael Corballis, a cognitive scientist at the University of Auckland, has built a detailed case that language itself evolved from gesture, not vocalization. The evidence is striking. The same brain regions that control hand movement, particularly Broca's area, long considered the seat of language, are activated during both speech and manual gesture. Sign languages, which are fully linguistic systems expressed entirely through gesture, use the same neural architecture as spoken language. The body was the first language. Before words, your ancestors pointed. They gestured toward food, toward danger, toward each other. They mimicked, reenacting a hunt, demonstrating how to make a tool, showing rather than telling. Anthropologist Michael Tomasello of Duke University has spent decades studying the unique human capacity for what he calls shared intentionality, the ability to understand that another mind has goals, attention, and intentions similar to your own. This capacity, which appears in human infants by around 9 months and is absent or severely limited in other primates, is the cognitive foundation that made language possible. But it was present long before language arrived. Your pre-linguistic ancestors already understood that other minds existed. They already knew the difference between accident and intention. They already had a theory of other people. Now consider what they made. The oldest known tools. The Oldowan stone tools found at sites in East Africa, dated to 2.6 million years ago, require a specific understanding of how force, angle, and material interact. Making a sharp-edged flake from a coarse stone is not obvious. It requires knowledge that must have been transmitted from one individual to another. How do you transmit knowledge without words? You show, you demonstrate. You let the learner watch and then try. You correct with gesture and expression. Archaeological evidence suggests that tool-making traditions remained remarkably stable across vast stretches of time and geography, which means the transmission was working. Knowledge was moving between minds without language to carry it. The Akulian hand axe, a teardrop-shaped stone tool that appears in the fossil record around 1.7 million years ago and persists with almost no variation for over 1 million years, is one of the most remarkable objects in human history. It required planning. The toolmaker had to visualize the final shape before beginning, select the right stone, and execute a precise sequence of strikes. Archaeologist Thomas Wynn of the University of Colorado has argued that making an Akulian hand axe requires the same kind of hierarchical planning ability that underlies grammar. The mind capable of making that tool was, in some important sense, already pre-adapted for language. And then there was music. Long before there were words, there was rhythm. The oldest known musical instruments, bone flutes found at sites in Europe, including the divje flute from Slovenia, tentatively dated to around 60,000 years ago, suggest that music was present before or at the very beginning of modern language. But rhythm itself, the synchronization of movement to a beat, appears to be far older. Researcher Anirudh Patel of Tufts University has studied beat synchrony across species and found that the ability to move in time to a rhythm, to entrain to a beat, is closely linked to the neural systems for vocal learning and language. Rhythm may have been a cognitive bridge between pre-linguistic gesture and full-spoken language. Around the fire at night, before words existed to carry stories, your ancestors moved together. They groomed. They touched. They made sounds, calls, vocalizations, melodic patterns that expressed emotional states and coordinated group activity. Psychologist Robin Dunbar of Oxford University has proposed that language evolved partly as a kind of vocal grooming, a way of maintaining social bonds across larger groups than physical grooming alone could sustain. Before words, the vocalization itself was the bond, the sound of a voice, the rhythm of breath, the presence of other bodies. This was the technology of social cohesion. So let's reconstruct a moment. You are somewhere in Africa, roughly 500,000 years ago. Your group has made camp near a river. There are no words, but there is communication everywhere. A raised hand means stop. A pointed finger means look there. A specific vocalization means danger, not the word danger, but a sound whose meaning is understood by everyone in the group because they grew up hearing it in the same context. Someone demonstrates how to prepare a root for eating. Others watch and copy. A child who does something wrong is corrected with a look, a touch, a guiding of hands. The group moves together in coordinated activity, not because anyone issued verbal instructions, but because each individual is reading the others, following attention, mirroring intention. This is not a lesser version of human life. This is the foundation on which language was built. Every capacity that language would eventually require. Shared attention, theory of mind, imitation, intentional communication, hierarchical planning, was already present, already working, already connecting minds across the gap between one skull and another. Language did not create the human mind. The human mind created language, and somewhere inside the mind you are using right now, beneath the words, beneath the sentences, beneath the grammar, that older, pre-linguistic intelligence is still running. It is the part of you that understands a look before a word is spoken, that knows what a gesture means before it is explained, that feels the rhythm of music in your body before your mind has named what you are feeling. You're thinking in words right now, but you were something before words, and that something has never entirely gone away. Please comment on what you would like to hear next.